Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a bit more Hardspace Shipbreaker as we continue playing with the new toy, the new scrap ship as it were. Now, some interesting points raised. One, the cockpit seemed to come away more freely, so we're going to investigate that perhaps, I think. It feels like the cockpit's not actually attached to the outer shell on the front anymore, which I guess makes sense, given that they've made all that effort to attach with the guarded sort of cut points that attach the interior superstructure to the outer shell. It sort of makes sense if you're going to have all those little points of like ability to cut freely, then maybe you shouldn't have the cockpit of the ship hard fused into the front skin. So we're going to have a look at that. We'll tear the face off of it and see what's underneath. People have pointed out that apparently in recent patch notes they've changed it so you don't have to launch things at the cut guards, which, I mean, we'll have a look at that. Apparently you can just hit it with your little, you can just press it with your pusher thing, which to be honest I'm disappointed by. Now look, it's not a mechanic that I necessarily really enjoyed. Reference last episode where I knowingly launched a chunk into one and then blew up a coolant pipe. I knew it was going to go wrong. But it added something interesting. I mean, look, this is just a general sort of industry observation and statement, but you got to be careful as a developer pandering to your audience too much. I wonder how much of that is people whinging about about the cut guards being too difficult or being, like, it's just different. It's not something that was part of the game at launch. They added a new mechanic that's got a bit of a complication to it where you have to source a bit of debris to smash it, and it creates risk. And I thought that's so clever. It's very interesting. Even if I don't particularly like it or anything, it's definitely clever. But I don't like seeing a developer backpedal on something like that, and now they've just made it baby mode, because I gotta wonder, what is even the point of the cut guard existing? If without the cut guard, I have all the tools on my kit to cut that. Now with the cut guard, I also have all the tools and I have to boop the thing. That's kind of dumb, don't you think? Like, maybe just remove the mechanic altogether and rework it or something, but now it's just sort of redundant and stands testament to a developer buckling to public opinion. Now don't get me wrong, I do like it when a developer responds to public feedback, but it just sort of feels like they put in a really interesting mechanic and a whole bunch of people probably complained about it, and then they changed it, and that makes me a little sad. Anyway, so we'll investigate that a little bit more. Equipment, let's see here. That's pretty good. Oh, we got 3 repair kits, so we're laughing, so let's get in there and give it a bloody go. What was it, Ford, that was like, if I gave the people what they want, they'd still be in horses and carts? I always find things like that interesting. There is a healthy balance between consumer and audience feedback and taking it on board and doing something with it, but you just, I think it's a sad state when you just buckle to what people say no matter what, and then they end up just bullying developers, and then what happened to the original vision of the developer, you know? But anyway, such is the state of the industry. But, and again, you know what, this just dovetails back into my idea about mods, and how there are so many of you that love the idea of being able to chop and change a game and make it your own, whereas I think, no, release it, leave it that way. If it's inadequate in some way, accept it as it is, like any sort of art or media, you know? You can't go changing the outcome of a movie because you don't like it. But like I said, that's just boomer old me. I guess nowadays everyone gets what they want. That's sort of the modern... That's the way we do it now. I've turned into the old man. Hang on, didn't that have pressure in it? Wait. Oh, I pressurized it by accident. Oh, okay, I see what's going on here.
Air pressure level decreasing.
Yeah, okay.
Air pressure level decreasing.
Alright.
Air pressure level decreasing.
Uh-oh. That should be right. Open the fucking door. Oh my god, this airlock shits me. Like, I'll admit that it's interesting, right? But the engineer in my brain just immediately goes, why? Why the fuck would you have a three-way door like this? It's the most unsafe fucking airlock. Like, the whole point of an airlock is to create a buffer, right? I mean, shit, if you play Rust, you put an airlock on your base in case someone accidentally gets through the first door. You've got a backup door. There's a redundancy to it, you know? This is just, it's self-defeating. I would have thought you'd probably have another door here to isolate that out and potentially have double doors on either side of these, if that makes sense. Two sets of doors. Ugh. Anyway, okay, cool. So where were we? We were looking at this picture. No, we're gonna go up the front and have a look about peeling the skin off it. Oh, that's the other thing. Apparently these airlocks are a thing now on everything as well. Now, I'm the first person to put my hand up and say I fucking hate these airlocks. Or the old airlocks. Because you had to sort of just chip at them and chop them away. But to me, they've just... What is this? They've just made an easier airlock? Like... I don't think my concerns are unfounded. As someone who's played a lot of this game, it seems like a lot of changes the devs are putting in are just pandering to people saying it's too hard. Now, that's not an attack. You might be one of those people. I know a lot of people watch the channel that are very much like pro Zen mode, right? Same sort of thing. It's like, oh, I don't like the limits and the stress of the time limit. To which I say that was the creative direction at the game's inception. The fact that you don't like it probably, like, we're just talking broadly, all right? I'm not trying to attack or anything like that, but if you don't like the way that they built it from the first, like, to me, if it was me, I would just move on to another game that suits me more closely, right? As opposed to trying to change it. And I know a bunch of you do like that sort of Zen mode. I'm sure you appreciate what I'm saying. Like, it's not coming from an aggressive, attacky place. But, that's yet another change. That, the airlocks, these things. Let's see if there's one of those cut guards up on the top. I want to test it. No, because they're kind of random, so there's no way. But yeah, as I rattle them off, it's not like there's game-breaking bug issues. It's just these quality of life changes, and I feel the devs are just sacrificing their original vision to make it a bloody pat on their head sort of everybody's happy environment. Which, I mean, it hasn't hurt my experience, you know, so I'm not trying to be curmudgeon-y sook. Why won't you fucking come apart? It's because I haven't cut that. This is more just statement of observation. You know, I'm not standing on a box saying they're ruining the Hardspace experience, but I just find it strange that, I get passionate about engineering, for example, right? Because that's my background. Geez, look at it. It does peel off. Look at that. Oh, wow. That changes fucking everything. That really changes a lot about the way that we've been dealing with that. But yeah, look, I'm obviously very passionate about engineering and that, so then I think about these creative types, and I've met enough creative types to think that I don't like a lot of them because they live on another planet. But imagine this game is your absolute baby, your vision, your life. You work 16 hours a day for 5 years, and so does everyone else in your team, to make this game and bring it out. And then have all the public go, oh, it's too hard, or I don't like that. I don't like what you did. I kind of felt that it would be the the position of the artist that is true to himself and his art, right? Again, I live in an engineering world on practicality, but I think if you think you're creating some lofty experience, then I just cannot comprehend how someone will buckle and change it because someone thought it was too hard or they didn't like it. You know, I think it's too stressful. I want a Zen mode. Now, I know I'm being a little bit cheeky there, but I think my point stands, or at least people can understand. You don't have to agree with it, you don't have to like it, but you can probably understand where my point's rooted. And yeah, more and more I just look at all the changes that this game's implementing, and it is all changes to make it easier and more accessible. And I really do wonder if there's someone at the studio that's pulling their hair out going, what are you doing? We had a really interesting idea for a game, and little bit by little bit, you're, oh, here we go. You're just making it baby mode. Just a thought. And before you get on your high, I'm gonna press, so do I just boop this? Is that the idea? Do I grapple it and boop it? What are people bloody talking about? Do I tear it off?
Deposit not accepted.
I'm booping it. Oh, you give it a full boop. Okay. Yeah, that's dumb. That's like... I try and use my words. I should just say dumb. But if you think that that's a clever improvement, consider my argument. Or at least feel free to present yours in the comments. I'd be curious. Why is that even in the game anymore? Are you of the mindset that it should just be removed? And then consider, are you just enjoying changes to a mechanic because you want the mechanic removed from the game whole cloth? That's a little bit gross. You know what I mean? I don't like this mechanic, so I like that they made it less, they dumbed it down. It's closer to getting rid of it entirely. Anyway, like, again, I don't actually love that mechanic personally, but I appreciate how clever it is and interesting, and it actually does kind of add to overall gameplay. And to be honest, they're so rare that I think it's balanced in a way, that it's just this rare thing that you got to deal with occasionally. Anyway, a lot of stuff thrown out there. Again, look, I play a million different games on the channel, so I'm not neck beating out. This isn't my Dota. You know what I mean? This isn't my only game or anything like that. They can make all the changes they want. This is more just an observation, because I've followed this game so much for so long and played it a lot. And it just does seem that all the changes that they make are, for lack of a better term, pandering changes. Oops, don't do that. They've made the airlock easier because, presumably, well, they've just made it easier. I don't think they've added anything to it. Oh my god, that was strange. Ooh, that was unusual. That sparked a bit early. Well, there you go. We've done like 10 reactor pulls, and that was the first time it's... Well, hang on. Why is its health low? It's because I didn't cut the bloody pad underneath. Sorry, I got distracted talking. Okay, well, that one doesn't count. Anyway. I'd be curious. I'd be curious what people have to say. But before you get too defensive, remember my concern that I'm sort of raising is that I do feel that most of their changes have been to make the game easier. Right?
Please refrain from damaging salvage.
And to which I say, what's wrong with having a hard game? I'm not trying to gatekeep or anything like that, but refer back to the statement about if you gave people what they want, they'd still be bloody in horses and carts. It's so good. Like, you need to give a company its creative freedom to come up with something new, and you might not like 100% of it. And I feel it's not your job to try and make the developer change it to suit your particular palette. it's kind of your job as, let's say, as a responsible adult consumer of things to accept it and love it for its faults. You know what I mean? Or despite its faults. Where's the power thing? We've got 3 minutes, so we might as well pull that out.
Credits deposited.
I'd be curious, how much of the, is there an overlap to, like, say you've got a misso, and you love her to death, but she's got a, I don't know, she's got a big ugly crooked nose or something like that. Do you pressure her for bloody 20 years, just slowly nudging at her to get her to bloody have nose surgery to make her fit with what you think's pretty? Or do you just go, I love her anyway, sort of thing? I don't know, that's a little bit more out there, but I'm sort of thinking on my feet, remember?
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
But I also, like, hopefully this will lead to some interesting and juicy conversation, because whenever I bring up mods and how I don't really agree with the majority of people don't really attack me. They just bring their point to the table and we have a really pleasant exchange. So hopefully it stays the same way this time.
Warning. Fuel levels are low.
Because I feel like there's a bit of an overlap, to be honest, to what I'm saying and that sort of mod mentality. And you know what? This is probably just bloody, even though I'm not a boomer, but boomer trying to figure out what young people want.
Warning. Your oxygen reserves are dropping below statistically profitable levels.
This is a good experiment. This should stop it. Perfect. How good's that? Nice. Anyway, I like it. I'm not going to be that guy that doesn't understand how video games sort of like development programs, cycles and teams work. And go, well, instead of making all this easy accessibility shit, they should be adding more content. Like, no. And if you're the guy that says that or thinks that, gets on the posts, or maybe instead of adding stuff they should fix the bugs, or, you know, that sort of bullshit, it's like, wow, you just, I don't know what your job is, but it obviously doesn't have any sort of complexity or hierarchy or other positions, or, you know, you don't understand general management of departments. Like, I totally understand that the guys making these adjustments in response to the community are different from the guys that are like designing new art assets and new ships and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not suggesting that they change their division of labor or anything like that. That's not something. And again, I'm not even necessarily saying that they shouldn't do what they're doing, you know? I guess I'm just sort of, it's an interesting culture change to live through, where we've gone from going to an art museum and looking at a painting going, oh, that's cool, or I don't like that for that reason and all that, and then just moving on to the next painting and having another look at one and learning from that experience. Oh, it turns out I don't like bloody fluoro green in pictures that much, you know, and that's it. That's how it goes. As opposed to the sort of modern thing is like, well, let's get a bloody petition to get everyone to sign to make him change the color of the painting. You know, let's change the ending of Mass Effect 3. Let's get mod tools so I can redraw the painting the way I want it. It's just a fascinating culture, because you go back in my living years, and I'm in my 30s, you know, I'm not a bazillion years old. Even in my living time, we've shifted from where we just accept the artist's direction or the creator. It doesn't have to be the artist, because there's a lot more technicality required in building a video game. So it's somewhere in between, right? There's art and then there's technical competence. But still, it's their vision. And yeah, we've managed to shift in under a generation. In like half a generation, we've managed to go from accept it for what it is and just be okay with it. And if it's not for you, go elsewhere. You know what I mean? And then we've moved to a point where it's like, no, I want it to this exact specification, and I want the tools to change it. So, yeah, But this is obviously a sticking point that I'm having issue with personally between my older generation of gamers and the newer generation of like modded gamers. You know, that's why it keeps coming back and coming up. I don't necessarily begrudge the direction it's going, because I'm a huge Darwinism type person as well. You know, survival of the fittest and the direction that it's going to go. And if that's where it's going to go, and the majority want it to go into sort of homogenize what I view as a baby mode, where every game will be the same, or you could have the mod tools to mod this and bloody Space Crew to be identical. You know, if that's what people want and where the industry's going to go, then so be it. I'm not fighting it or necessarily against it. It's more that I'm just making an observation of being someone who's living through a culture change in an industry that I love and that I'm passionate about. That's all. So like I said, if somehow you find yourself offended or upset by what I said, you got to check yourself, because all I'm doing is discussing an observation. I just find it fascinating. But if you do find yourself in the area that feels disparaged by my comments, where maybe you like this game but it's too stressful or it's too hard for you, and you appreciate them making all the changes, I'd be curious what you actually have to say on that topic. Are you self-aware enough to know that you are wielding your community power to change a game to make it easier for you? And do you think that that's a net positive 100% no matter what? Or maybe you do share some of the concerns that I'm pointing out, which is that maybe it does actually sort of not necessarily cheapen the experience, but at the very most it augments the original vision to suit yours. But maybe there's another level to it. Maybe it's a power thing. Maybe people like making the developers change it. I don't know. That seems insidious, and I'm not trying to attribute sort of a hate to people. That's not what it is. It's just an observation. But again, for the life of me, I cannot comprehend why people can't just be okay with something being the way that it is, as opposed to wanting to just morph it and change it to suit what they want. I'd be curious. Anyway, just a thought. Bit of a, you know, sometimes I go on these meandering thoughts. It's very interesting. I'd be curious what people have to say, because you always have interesting things to say. You know, let's keep it respectful, obviously. I'm not necessarily trying to go out of my way and attack anyone or anything like that, just making an observation. So if you want to bring the pain and be a bit of a dick, well, I mean, you probably just get yourself blocked, I suppose. So, but if you're up for civil conversation, I'm happy to hear what people have to say. But anyway, I don't want to rant and ramble too much more. It's just interesting. Now that I've got it sort of dug into my head, earworming in there, I sort of, yeah, just sort of thinking about the direction of this game. And it'd be interesting how this conversation, this video holds up 6 months from now. Does this game continue to just keep changing? Like, I'd be curious, maybe people don't even see what I see. Maybe I'm overthinking it, maybe I'm wrong, that's fine, I'm always happy to admit that. But maybe now that you've seen what I've seen, or, you know, heard my observations, maybe you notice over the next 6 months this game just constantly changing all of its mechanics to make it just easier, and to take out the bite and make it a smoother sort of everyman experience. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. But I'd be curious to see where it goes now that I've sort of noticed it myself. Anyway, team, thanks again for joining me. I might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.